Hello, my name is Jerry Smetzer. For reasons of social distancing, and for better or worse, I am the one actor in this one actor, one act play. This video runs about 15 minutes. My reading of the play in this video runs about 11 minutes. Forgive me for reading much of it. I haven't yet, memorized the complete manuscript, even though I did write it. There is no background music. However, I'm doing this in 5 different physical settings, which I call shots, in my workspace, so you can see some artworks on the walls while I'm reading. Thank you for having a look and a listen. Tell me what you think of it when you can. Here we go. In the midst of the COVID-19 crisis, my art accompanist, Hetty, asked me, after one of my usually snarky comments about our current U.S. president, what would Obama do? I had to stop and think, wow, what would Obama do? I'm a regular junkie when it comes to evidence-based news about politics, art, science, and media. I am confident that I know what our president is doing or not doing, just as does almost anybody else who is paying attention these days. But would Obama do anything different? Full disclosure, I am and have always been an Obama enthusiast. In the summer of 2007, Obama, a young black Democratic state senator from Chicago, became a new candidate for U.S. president. In those days, my youngest son, Gabe, said to me, "You should pay attention to this black guy, Barack Obama." Gabe had read Obama's 1995 memoir about Obama's black Kenyan father. It was titled Dreams from My Father. "I think he is a good guy," Gabe said. Plus this, I'm a rather small guy physically, so I have a lifelong abhorrence of bullies who abuse and dominate those who cannot or do not fight back. I abhor the casual racism and the general support for slavery, fascism, and violence among the bullies I know or have known about. I had heard something of Obama and his reasons for running. My impression of him, based on that, was very positive. However, following up on Gabe's enthusiasm and that of my 2 other children and their mates, and for my own personal reasons, I felt I needed to read and learn more about the guy. My personal reasons go back to my lifelong experience interacting with black people growing up on the farm and going to school in northern Ohio. They go back to my solo walkabout years through the wilds of America, Africa, Europe, Russia, and Japan after college. They came after my mind-blowing time in the U.S. Peace Corps in Afghanistan in the late 1960s. Then, maybe most important, marriage, creating a home and raising a family. All of us with an abundance of personal and professional relationships among Alaska's Native peoples and guided by our deep sharing of their rich and diverse cultures. I got hooked on Obama then, and I still am. But to the question, I believe that shortly after he had become president, fictionally early in 2017, Obama would have personally interviewed Dr. Anthony Fauci, then head of the National Institute of Health, the NIH, and the most experienced and knowledgeable manager of U.S. responses to infectious diseases and global pandemics on the planet. Since in fictional 2019, Obama's gathering knowledge of infectious diseases like Ebola, SARS, and MERS has led him to an understanding and recognition of the danger of this new coronavirus variant. I believe, based on no evidence whatsoever, that President Obama would have called Dr. Fauci in for an interview about the new virus in late 2019. By then, Dr. Anthony Fauci would have become aware of and would have studied up on this newest and far more dangerous member of the ancient family of flu and Ebola-like coronaviruses. I believe a President Obama would have put out the word primarily to Fauci, but really through Fauci to all the public health community around the world. Keep a close eye on this. Talk to your colleagues around the country and around the world, President Obama would have said. Figure out what you need if, in your best judgment, this virus might be locally or regionally limited. We can all hope for that, President Obama would have said. On the other hand, we must assume the worst. Start examining our best science, our collective knowledge, our data and current consensus among the best of our public health professionals, along with the experience and expertise of our people on the front lines of testing, then caring for infected patients. I had to step out for a bit. Continuing, figure out what you need if, in your best judgment, this virus might be locally or regionally limited. We can all hope for that, President Obama would have said. On the other hand, we must assume the worst. Start examining our best science, our collective knowledge, our data and current consensus among the best of our public health professionals, along with the experience and expertise of our people on the front lines of testing and then caring for infected patients. If it becomes clear on that basis that this new corona variant will become a major, rapidly expanding and clearly deadly health threat to our entire global population, give me that bad news as soon as you and your peers feel confident that you know it, and you know it in the deepest part of who you are as my primary advisor on this problem. As Dr. Fauci rises to take up this new mandate, President Obama says, "Tell me soon what we must do this week, next week, and a month from now to be ready to ramp up testing, research, analysis, and training, to ramp up fast-tracking additional hospital beds, the production of relevant medical supplies, and the procurement of huge quantities of personal protection equipment to go first to our health workers in the field, then to all Americans. Be ready to discuss institutional changes and resource reallocations that will be required across our entire system of public health. Social distancing comes to mind, particularly in the supply of protective gear and testing for our health workers and for those who must deal with disruptions to the economy. I will have other people working in these areas, but keep in mind two things. One, our national elections are coming up in about 1 year. Our social distancing as national and international policy will swamp all of our digital networks around the globe. Be aware and prepare. Start getting help on an urgent basis now with my support in requiring that all of our agencies gather data and strategic knowledge of stress points in our US-based engines of manufacture of priority materials and in our supply, transport, and defense systems everywhere in America when we may be called upon to use them on an emergency basis. Quote, "Most important, as you know, the power of my podium is the most powerful authority I have as U.S. President. Tell me what you think I need to say to the American people, and when and how often I need to say it to them in order to calm their inevitable impulse toward panic and superstition. When the word goes out, whether from us or from someone hostile to us, I want to have your best judgment about what I need to say. Quote, the people will need the best, most coherent, and most effective advice we are capable of. said U.S. President Obama to NIH Director Dr. Anthony Fauci. The language of delivery of that kind of advice may become a critical communication tool for us if there is a big brother, big lie style of hostile propaganda being pushed and gaining traction among those who harbor hate and growing feelings of grievance against toward the many others they see gathering against them. Unquote. In this fictional meeting with Dr. Anthony Fauci of the National Institutes of Health, occurring fictionally in late 2019, U.S. President Obama continued, quote, "Your job, Dr. Fauci, is to help my cabinet, myself, and others find words and phrases sensitive to the health crisis. My job, with the support of my cabinet and others throughout the federal system who may speak on this, will be to deliver advice to all the American people. And literally, I mean we the people, the ones in the preamble to our U.S. Constitution, on what they need to know and what they need to do. Quote, I will need to gain the full trust and support of those people. I will need to count on their willingness to do everything in their power as individuals to help and support the public health community. That community must analyze the virus, counter the misinformation, diffuse the threat, treat the sick, and work with local efforts to mitigate the potentially terrible long-term economic effects of this new disease." Now for the hard part. Over the next 10 days, be prepared to start discussing your findings with the members of my cabinet. You will need to have the expertise and the knowledge and my support to convince them that they must be ready to make major changes in the workings, the operations, and their budgets within a matter of weeks. Worst case, each cabinet secretary must be ready with his or her staff on the ground with their missions and instructions in hand and ready to deal with a global pandemic. It is now late 2019. The World Health Organization could well declare a pandemic within a few months, but probably it will be no later than March of 2020. Let us hope and pray their missions and instructions among our agencies will never need to be used. Quote, throughout this, I and the White House staff will have to work constantly to convince the Congress that what they must do and what votes they must take. Remember that the majority leader of the U.S. Senate has already told the members of his party that he will block any actions I may bring up to him on nominees to the Supreme Court, or anything else, I imagine, no matter how important or how urgent the threat to public health may be. We are fortunate that the Speaker of the House of Representatives is a member of my party. She is particularly tough and smart. In my view, she is a more effective political leader than either the U.S. President or the Senate Majority Leader. I will be working closely with her on every detail of this. That is all I have today, sir. To get myself into the habit of social distancing, I won't shake your hand as you depart. Good luck and good fortune as you take up this new task. Help us and guide us as we, all and each and every one of us, try to learn how to best deal with this challenge to everything we each know and hold dear. Good day to you, sir.